So now you're gonna go in circle again, in group, and then we're gonna do about maybe 2 to 3 music, just with the same principle. So when you are doing your round, you start with something in mind, and based on that, everything else just flows, okay? And you keep the structure. When I say you keep the structure, is you keep the mechanic of your idea, right? And following with some sort of groove that will keep the continuity of it. If we have those two in your rounds, for now, you are doing a great job, right? Question?
How do you find the groove players?
It's up to you, right? When you hear the music, how do you feel like moving right now, right? But when I say how do you feel like moving, it's more like how do you feel like flowing with the beat? Because if you hear the song, okay, and now all of a sudden, I'm starting doing this, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this, right? And then all of a sudden I'm doing this, it doesn't work, right? But if I said, okay, I feel like I want to move this way. Right now, this is just a movement, okay? Now, the moment I start flowing with it, this is the groove that I want to add to it. Okay, now I've got it, okay? This is the groove that I want, and then that's the concept that I want to develop. Now, all of a sudden, it keeps on going, all right? Nice one, okay? Any other question before we go? Let's go. All right, group. And I'm going to play the music and we just go with this, okay? Take your time with your rounds. Yeah? Let's go. Do you have any questions so far? We will have a session of Q&A and lab. For those of you who were last time, you know what I'm talking about. We will have that toward the end. But do you have any question based on maybe what you've done and maybe certain things that you noticed while you were dancing? Anything like this?
What do you do when you're afraid of not doing enough in terms of, I guess, vocabulary? Because for me, since I started, I've always been worried about floor work, for example. You know, if I'm not doing it enough, or if I'm unable to connect it with what I'm already doing standing up. So do you do something to block that away as like an intrusive thought, or is it something that you use and then try to analyze and then see what you can pick?
Okay, so to answer that question, it's exactly what we've done before. Ideally, you want to stay with what you have right now, okay? Because the fact that you think about you don't have, or at least you think that you don't have enough vocabulary, it's not going to change anything in the moment, right? So therefore, if you feel like, okay, the person who's dancing with me seems to have way more vocabulary with than me, but it's okay, I'm going to stay with what I know how to do now, right? Because if I only do this, right? But I do it this way and showing to everybody that I don't even believe in what I'm doing right now, right? But if I actually say, okay, this is only the thing that I've got, you know, that's the only movement that I've got, and actually I'm going to cherish this one, you know, to the fullest. And that all of a sudden, the quality of movement is different, right? It's different because this is the one I'm cherishing right now, because this is the only one I've got right now. You see what I mean? It's a simple principle, but it's extremely hard to implement every time, You see what I mean? And I still struggle with it, like I said at the beginning, you know? But it's the best way to approach it, right? Because vocabulary will always get better and better and better. The longer you stay in the game, the more you will learn, the more you will know, the more you will understand your body, and the more you will be able to offer, right? But I can give you all the vocabulary right now, but if you don't know how to stay with them, you're still gonna be in a rush. Does that make sense? Right, so that's the key here. Stay with what you've got, cherish it, and then your body will ask for more, yeah? Any other question?
So what we were just doing, like even more maybe the previous exercise, like doing just one thing, like I really like that exercise, but I also like it as more than just an exercise. Like I really like dancing that way, and I also really, even when I watch someone and you can tell that they start with something and they do a whole round like starting from there, like I'm always really amazed by that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I also feel like there's lots of people who would find it like, oh, they were just doing the same thing, like whatever, do something else. And when we do it here, it's really fun and easy because I know that's the exercise. So I'm doing it right by doing that. But if it was just like free, then I feel like if I do that, now it's my choice, right? It's not me following an exercise. And sometimes it's hard for me to like here, it's easier to fight the resistance because that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not an exercise, then I feel like I'm making a mistake. Like I shouldn't be doing this. Like people are just going to be bored.
Yeah, yeah. And you finish.
I even know the people that are going to be bored.
And you finish with the right sentence. People are going to be bored, right? So for me, how I manage this and how I'm trying to manage this, and I said try it because I believe I probably have it right 70 to 80% of the time, right? But definitely not 100% of the time. And I'm not sure if I will ever get it 100% of the time in battle and all of that. And I'm okay with this. Now, what I realize is that when I'm dancing by myself and practicing those things, there is a big factor that I cannot change, and that makes a huge difference when I dance in a battle or in public, is the silence. Because when I dance by myself, I do not expect any reaction, right? I just have the music and I dance, right? So whenever I go and dance, in a public, I think, okay, I'm gonna have the same state of mind just like in my room, but it's not gonna happen because I'm trying to replicate exactly the same feeling that I've got in my room. Then I realize, okay, actually, I'm not that comfortable with silence in front of a crowd. That, at least for me, this is my problem, right? I understand, okay, I struggle with silence. I'm chasing reaction. And whenever I'm chasing reaction, then it's game over. Yeah. So I fall into the audience trap.
How do you then get comfortable with silence?
Honestly, I'm working on it. I'm still working on it. There are some days I just, manage to really stay with myself, right? But there are some days I don't. But then, when I compare those 2 days, here's the big difference. When I stay with myself, I do exactly that. I take time with whatever I do. But when I don't stay with myself, I'm in a rush. The continuity is not really there, or at least not the way I would like it to be. And it's very relevant. You can, it's obvious. Yeah, sorry, I think that's the word. It's very obvious when I'm connected and when I'm not connected, at least for myself. You see what I mean? So basically, I understand first, okay, what was the problem? What is the problem for me? I'm not really settled when there is silence in public. So therefore, there is a part of me who's chasing that reaction. So therefore, I'm going to try to hit the music, faster or something to get that reaction. And it's happening unconsciously. So I had to kind of literally step back and see that happening, right? When I watch my videos later and stuff like that. Once I understand that, then I'm like, okay, how can I manage this? Just like that. Structuring my rounds to give it enough room for freedom, but at the same time, you know, having continuity in what I'm doing, right? It's just because when I'm talking to you right now, if I move from one subject to another, you will not be able to follow because there's no continuity, right? It's the same thing when we are dancing. If we don't structure it, you know, our rounds, and within it having freedom, it's not going to happen. And it's easy to fall into that trap. You see what I mean? Yeah. So that's how, I mean, that's what is happening to me as well. And I think that's what is happening to most people. Because we want to grab the same feeling that we have at home or with close friends or in a safe environment, and we want to bring it in a public, and we're like, okay, I'm going to be able to do the same thing. But we're not realizing, okay, it's not the same setup, right? So therefore, I need to be even stronger mentally to focus even more on myself. But the principle, the exercise, the approach is the same. Yeah? Is it clear now? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know you have some more. Yeah, I will. No, because Anna, she's one of our BTM member, and we used to having, you know, conversation like this. So that's why I'm like, okay, I answer, but I know she's got something else in her mind. Yeah.
Because sometimes also, like, you were talking, okay, if I stay with myself, I have this continuity. But what if, okay, say you're actually like somewhere you have like 1 minute or 2 minutes or something, and your continuity doesn't take you really anywhere. Do you just stick with it? Because at that point there is an audience and people are watching, and if you're trying to just let it happen, because if you're at home and you just say, okay, I put the music, I do whatever, nothing happens, whatever, it doesn't really matter, you can keep going. Mm-hmm. But if you're there and all you've got is 1 minute, nothing happens, then nothing happened.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So yeah, very good. I like this. So let me ask you this. Would you prefer finish your rounds and your run was all over the place, right? Because you were in a rush, because you had 1 minute and you want to convince everyone in the room. Or you did not do an amazing round, right? But the message was clear. The continuity was there, even though like creatively it was not crazy. Which one would you choose?
Yeah, the second one.
So you have your answer, right? So you have your answer, and we all have our answer. So once again, I would rather leave the room, talk, and say something, but I didn't put like the craziest words and the most creative words, but at least you understand what I'm saying with my French accents and Asian accent at the same time. Yeah, you understand it. But if I leave the room and I say things but you don't understand, you're gonna be like, what was this guy was talking about? You see what I mean? So I would rather keep my French Asian accent but be clear on what I'm saying with very simple words, like, instead of going all over the place. Does that make sense? So that's the same thing when you are dancing. Yeah? And this is why I'm like literally sometimes angry with myself when I finish a round and it was all over the place because I know better, but I just fall into that trap. Right? And when I fall into that trap and I know better, I'm angry, against myself because I'm like, what you've just done, Yeah. So choose this one. Yeah?
How do you train musicality with things?
Okay, so this is gonna be like a whole different subject. So we could probably cover this a little bit later, right? But yes, you had the question. Sorry. Yeah. So here's the thing. We will have this later on today, right? Because I want you to keep on dancing and keep the momentum going. So I'm going to answer your question, and then we go back to what's coming next. All right?
Okay. So my first question is about balancing structure and freedom. And if you take this structure that we just worked with, where you take one movement, and then you kind of build on it, are you like deciding on that movement and deciding on what flow and continuity you want to have before you go in, or do you like go in and then you see what happens and you're like, oh, I like this one little thing I did, and continue with it? Because sometimes I like overthink before I'm like, I know I want to do this move, but then the music comes on and I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. And so that is question one. And then question two is like, do you always use this structure, or is this just one type?
Okay, right, good question. So I don't want you to be dependent on any approach or any structure or any of that, right? Because once again, starting with one move, it's not the structure, right? This is an exercise. The principle or the structure is just making sense, right? The real structure is always having continuity and making sense, right? So therefore you can start however you want, right? So please don't think like, okay, I have to start with a movement and then this is the movement that's going to be, you know, my entire round, right? That was the exercise to kind of put you into a easier structure to follow, okay? So that's one. Secondly, whenever you feel like there is something that I want to do, okay? You feel the desire to do this, right? Usually, I'm just going with that. If I hesitate in the moment, it's just because I'm overthinking it. You know, because at the end of the day, you can't go wrong. Even if you say, okay, this is going to be my first movement, right? You can't go wrong. It's just the start. You see what I mean? So keep the one that you started with. And it's also a very good way to kind of build that confidence. Okay, I feel like doing this. Okay, let's go with this then. All right, so yeah, that's it, you know. And from that, you just build it up, right? So stick to the first, you know, like instant, right? And secondly, don't focus on the exercise. The exercise is not the structure. The principle is the structure. The principle is having continuity and make sense. Yeah? Cool. All right, so what's next? So stand up, please, guys.
Hey, thank you for watching this video. Are you looking for a dance community that really gets you? Our member Marco said, it's just great. Beyond the Move surpassed my expectations. The community is heartwarming, and seeing others who face similar challenges is reassuring. The video quality is outstanding, and the concepts are well thought out. So I invite you to dive deep into Beyond the Move and discover a genuine approach of freestyle dance, plus an encouraging community. Join now and be part of our ever-growing tribe, and I'll see you on the inside, alright? Take care, bye-bye.